I go? Okay. Audrey Cow. Easier said than done, I'm afraid. Besides which, I had to learn how to keep that little contraption hidden in my mouth without swallowing it. So, with only 2 days left until the truck arrived, whenever Farmer Family was out of sight, I'd sneak into Buster's pen and practice. Buster would motivate me with the egg timer he had borrowed from Farmer's kitchen many years ago. Eventually, I could do it, although not nearly as fast as General Buster would have preferred. I could only hope the latch on Abbott's war truck would be no more difficult than the one I was already struggling with. Meanwhile, Eddie had to work on all the other parts of Buster's plan. Eddie Dog. Buster pointed out that the tire had to be punctured with the screw while the truck was in the farmyard. First, we'd have to place the screw under the tire. Then, up in the cab, the gear needed to be shifted into neutral so we could roll the truck on top of the screw. Jeepers! I cried. Pushing a truck is no easy business. Why the heck can't we just let the driver drive the truck over the screw? Pretty good thinking on my part, if I do say so myself. Buster simply sighed and rolled his eyes and then explained that when the truck left Bittersweet Farm, the driver backed up 52% of the time and drove 48%. Gosh, some of the stuff Buster keeps in his head is a bit weird. In any case, the odds were too close to take a chance on putting the screw in front of the tire or behind, so pushing the truck ourselves was the only option. Obviously, we couldn't do that right under Farmer's nose. Therefore, a distraction would be required to keep all the humans busy while we performed the operation. What kind of distraction? One that I could scramble up in less than 36 hours. Clark Sheep. Before we answer your question, let me be clear. We are terribly misjudged group. What has been understood as a random movement in which one of us changes position and the rest then follow brainlessly is untrue. Take the time to listen to our passionate bleats, and you will see that a shift from one location to another has everything to do with the force of the argument being brought by a member of the flock. Sheep speak eloquently and are very convincing. If we all follow a ram one way and then follow an ewe somewhere else, you can be sure it's because we weighed the arguments and came to a hard-earned decision. There are much more weak-minded things to be in the world than a herd of sheep. Lionel Sheep. Well said, Clark. Well said. Ahem. The request was brought forward during one of our evening scrums. That is when the herd votes on the issues that need attention before we all retire for the night. We sleep on the decisions and then re-vote in the morning. Bridget Sheep. Unless, of course, a member wakes up and demands a debate prior to sunrise. Then, according to Rule 463B on the Sheep Constitution, the herd is required to get up and hash out the concerns of that member to her or his satisfaction. Lionel Sheep. Yes, good point, Bridget. Now, on the night in question, Eddie interrupted our meeting. He requested that we create a distraction at a certain place and time. This brought up an issue right away. We sheep are not in the habit of including any other animal, especially a sheepdog, in our meetings. Max and his son, Eddie, are tolerated but not embraced. They are what we consider necessary evils. Bridget Sheep. What Lionel means is that we acknowledge that the sheepdog does protect us from dangerous predators like wolves, foxes, etc., for which we are grateful. But we also point out that the sheepdog's duty is primarily to farmer, and the rights of us sheep come second. Ultimately, the dog orders where we sheep are to go and how long we are allowed to stay there. Until sheep are granted full power to decide where on the farm we will graze, our sheep dignity is being denied, and we will forever be at odds with dogs such as Max and Eddie. Lionel Sheep. Hear, hear, Bridget. Well put. However, when Eddie approached us with his request, he was speaking on behalf of Audrey, which made this issue, well, less an issue. Bridget sheep. Let it be known that we sheep wholeheartedly recognized and sympathized with Audrey's plight as a food cow. If we hesitated in helping our sister in her time of need, it was because she did not seek us out first, but instead looked elsewhere. Eddie Dog. No, the sheep weren't our first choice. I figured that being, as they say, a sheepdog, maybe they wouldn't take me seriously, asking them for something. They don't really like my dad. They're probably not thrilled with me either. But that's not the only reason. You've heard how sheep talk, right? As a group, it takes sheep forever to make up their mind about anything. They just talk and talk and talk, and we really didn't have that kind of spare time. We only had a day and a half left. So first, we went somewhere else for help. Loretta Goose. Who's asking? I'm just saying, who wants to know? Why do I want to know who wants to know? Listen, bub. You listen good. Loretta is not in the habit of blabbing her beak off to any strangers who come snooping around with a load of questions. You got that? Loretta would prefer to know the purpose for this line of inquiry before she decides to cooperate. Am I getting through to you? Do I look like some pushover? Is there a sign hung on my tail feathers that reads chump? No, there isn't, is there? So let me repeat the follow-up question to the question asked of me. What is this all about, huh? Oh, it's about Audrey? Well, why didn't you say so in the first place? Yeah, we did business with her. Sid Goose. Oh my, tisk tisk tisk. Dear interviewer, please do not be put off by Loretta. Her speech might be a tad crude, but her heart is golden, I assure you. Yes, it is true that a certain business meeting was conducted between the Goose family and one Audrey the cow and one Eddie the dog. Let us not be coy here. We are all adults, are we not? And all of us are aware of the situation pertaining to Audrey, her predicament, and her plan to remedy it. She needed a distraction to take place close to the Abbott's War truck. We listened to her request, which is not a crime as far as I know, and let the record show that they approached us and not vice versa. We were minding our own business, as I recall, at the time. Loretta and I were discussing whether to take a stroll towards Artificial Lake. Loretta Goose. Yeah, right. As I recall, we were discussing the fact that Sid waddles like she's wearing little girl Elspeth's old baby diapers. Ha! Sid Goose. Pardon moi? Loretta said. What about me? She did. She mentioned the diaper comment? Really? Oh my. I so wish that dear Loretta could hold her tongue. What I mean is, I would so appreciate it if my oldest and dearest friend could just shut her fat, blabby bill for one merciful second. Do you think that might be possible? Do you think that maybe, perhaps, that annoying fowl might shut her stupid, ugly bill? Loretta Goose. Sid said that? Sounds like someone's got her diaper twisted in a knot. Ha! Sid Goose. Ugh! You tell Loretta that I will wring her neck. You tell her that if it's the last thing I do with my dying breath, I will wring her scrawny, stupid neck. Eddie Dog. So, no, they didn't work out. And that's when I decided we should try the sheep instead. They discussed it all evening, and then they slept on it, and then they woke up and discussed it some more. And then they agreed to do it. And then they didn't. But then they absolutely agreed, and then they discussed how they would do it, which took another couple of hours, and jeepers creepers, I think I would rather bite off my own tail than go through that again. We were down to less than a day, but in the end, the sheep settled on a distraction that involved a move rarely done. Gosh, they wouldn't even tell me what it was. So, Audrey Cal. It was done. Eddie had managed to organize all the elements of Buster's plan. Now we just had to wait until noon of the next day to put it all in motion. The quiet before the storm, as they say. Mother Spirit seemed to hover beside me, guiding my heart to a slow, steady rhythm, and my mind to an inner peace. Eddie Dog. I could finally catch my breath, and that's when it really hit me that no matter whether the plan worked and Audrey escaped, or the plan failed and Audrey didn't escape, the one thing that would be the same either way was that I'd never see her again. Just understanding that made me hurt so much inside. I couldn't imagine a day when I wouldn't see Audrey or catch a scent of her on the wind. That last night I went over to the barn and we lay together for a while. Heck, I'd be lying if I said I didn't whimper. I was losing her. Even if it was for the best, it didn't make the hurt any less painful. When I headed over to Farmer's house, Dad was waiting for me. You're breaking all the rules, he said. Everyone has their place. Everyone plays their part. What you're doing is going against the natural order. I looked over at Dad, but it didn't say anything. Audrey Cal. Gossip spreads through Bittersweet Farm like brush fire. It's a small community. I suppose that within a few hours, everyone other than farmer family knew that something was up. In the cowshed, it was quite the evening. Eddie came up and stayed a while. We didn't speak. I just gave him some licks around the ears. That's what calms him when he's upset. In my heart, I was sending him all my good wishes, trying not to dwell on our separation. After he left, I made the rounds of all the ladies. I said goodbye to each of them and wished them nothing but happiness in their lives. I meant it. They were my family, after all. Greta started wailing with big, inconsolable sobs. Agnes became confused and asked if she could just stick to saying goodnight like she usually did at bedtime. Norma couldn't look me in the eye, but I did hear a quiet, "Goodbye, child," just as she turned away. The hardest was saying farewell to Madge. I think for her it brought up memories of her son Lon. Mother always felt closest to you, I told her. She said you were like a walnut fresh off the tree. That got Madge's attention. Why would she say something like that, Audrey? She asked. I explained. Mother said you were hard on the outside, but in the inside you were soft and sweet. Madge's eyes got all watery, and she came close. I so want to help you, child, but I can't. I couldn't help my boy either. I was touched that in that moment, Madge put me on the same level as her son, and that maybe she saw me as a daughter. It's okay, I said. Just wish me